Did you ever wanted to become a Chad? Perhaps you thought of a Chad as an ideal state of being in regards to literally everything, or a very masculine guy who gets all of the females or whatever. If that is the case, then you should watch my video because it will cover a Chad lifestyle or a little guide on how to maximize your well-being as well as the well-being of others as a Chad. And I know that some of you may disagree with my ideal interpretation of a Chad, but Chad is really not an entirely agreed upon concept at this point, and therefore there can be multiple interpretations of a Chad. My personal interpretation of a Chad is a person who follows the following 12 rules in their life, whether it is a male or a female. So without further ado, here are the 12 rules that one should follow in order to become a Chad. Rule number 1. Clean your room. Yes, I know it might sound a little cliché because it is often repeated by conservatives and such, and you probably also heard it at least 20 times already, but the fundamental premise stays the same. Get your life at least in some resemblance of an order before trying to fix the world. Instead, focus on your life and not the life of others in the early stage of becoming a Chad, because when you are trying to give advices to others or changing the world while your own house looks rather messy, it's not going to give a good look on your behalf. Rule number 2. Take personal responsibility for your actions. Yes, sometimes you have to look at the mirror and blame yourself and not the environment around you for the bad things that are happening to you, but at the same time, make sure that you're doing that in such a way that will keep you motivated and would not decrease your confidence in yourself as a person. Rule number 3. Organize your time. I know that requires some self-discipline, but if you want to be a real Chad, you should absolutely do it, and not only finish your tasks ahead of time, but also figure out on which tasks you should spend your time on and which tasks drag you down, and finally have a functional sleep cycle, because that helps kind of a lot with other things. Gosh, it's not cool to sleep at 4 AM. Rule number 4. Stay focused on your main goal. Yes, a Chad should have a main goal in life that he should be striving towards for the rest of his life. It doesn't necessarily have to be something ridiculous like becoming a president or something, but rather something realistic and within your potential reach. And while you're moving towards it, it will bring you a lot of happiness and self-respect. Rule number 5. Exercise and eat healthy. To be a Chad, you don't necessarily have to look like this. What matters is just regular exercising, because at the end of the day, studies have shown that regular exercising boosts not only your mental health, but also your brain health, self-discipline, as well as your motivation. The same with food. You are what you eat, and it is important that you are not consuming something like fats and alcohol, which will make your body and your brain dysfunctional. Rule number 6, and I know it's going to be very surprising for many of you, but learn from your mistakes and the mistakes of others, as opposed to reading motivational books and learning from success of others, because they would usually tell you a story from a perspective of a winner that does not necessarily cover the obstacles that most people will face on in their journey of success. Rule number 7. Build a community and be around people who are like you, and not only physically but also share the same interests and goals in mind as you do. When you are exposed to like-minded individuals, cohesion and trust forms naturally, and therefore you will be able to form long and meaningful connections with them. Rule number 8. Have your politics reinforce the idea of communities of strength. Yes, to be Chad, you have to be political, and your politics by any stretch of the imagination should reinforce weakness, as well as low social values, but instead strengthen your society by having admirable social values, which in turn will continue to socialize stronger people like yourself. Rule number 9. Be open-minded. One of the qualities of a smart person is having an open mind, a willingness to be challenged on your beliefs about the world that possibly can be wrong sometimes. But stay with me, sometimes it's better to be right than to be wrong. And also, by being open-minded, I also don't mean risky behavior that would bring you to a lot of short-time pleasure over long-time pleasure, like cheating on your spouse or something like that. Rule number 10. Be altruistic. altruistic. Yes, being a Chad requires some self-sacrifice and loyalty to your community, which should reward you in return. You have to realize that in order to survive in this world, you need other people, but sometimes other people need you. Rule number 11. Always learn and, more importantly, value science and don't be a conspiracy theorist. And what I mean in regards to valuing science is not being a Star Wars soy-looking boy idiot kind of person wearing t-shirts similar to this one. I instead mean accepting most of the scientific consensus out there that, for example, 96% of biologists believe that life begins at conception and 97% of scientists believe that global warming is real and mostly due to human activities. Moreover, it is also important for one to understand the cultural realities and the realities of power relations that unfortunately cannot be separated from science production. It is very important for one to conceive of that and don't believe in conspiracy theories that are unproven, since it's just bad optics. Rule number 12. Be a realist, not only in terms of accurately estimating your potential and the potential of others, but also in terms of accurately estimating the forces at play in any given situation. Don't let yourself into self-delusions and try to look at the world as it is, without necessarily applying any lenses to it. And to an extent, being a realist somewhat itself is looking at the world through lenses too, but for every realist, the goal is to have those lenses disappear. Also, with regards to looking at the world, it is important to separate a narrative or a theory from facts, and most importantly, recognize that there are two kinds of statements that one can make about the world. Normative statement, how a person wants the world to be, and a positive statement, what the world really is. Finally, a bonus rule that I think I have stated implicitly before, but I'll state it again just to make sure it's out there. Look at everything that you're trying to do in the short/long-term effects. If most people were to follow this rule, then this video would not even be recorded. If you follow most of those 12 rules, you can be considered a Chad, at least spiritually. And on that note, you can subscribe to this channel, because shortly I will be releasing a second part where I will lay out the rules on how to become a better soy boy virgin. Also, I originally made around 20 rules, but for the sake of making this video short, I condensed them a bit. So if you have some extra rules or recommendations, please write them down below. Maybe one day I will make a more serious video on that topic.